Hey guys, what's up? So we're back, right? First of all, thank you so much for sticking, this far with this application. If you want to subscribe, that's fine. If not, then at least hit the bell, okay? Make sure that you're able to get these notifications because I'm going to be updating this course regularly. But we are actually almost done with it, okay? We only have a few more things to do. I want to do this. I want to do some authorization, so we have some login, log out type of deal, and have some protected views in there because you may want to hide some of these views, like this one right here, like the home one is fine. This one is a view that should be available to everybody, but the edit part may be something that you may want to protect and have it hidden only to an admin, right? So that not everybody that would come to this website will be able to change the tasks on you, okay? They can only see it. Why would they want to see your task? That's not really usable, but again, this is all conceptual. This is all basically just teaching you practices on how to do things. The actual practicality of the application itself, it's probably going to be garbage, okay? All right, so what we need to do here, so we prepped all the work for the edit task, and that's what we're going to do now. We're going to actually start wiring it up. So right now, if I click on the edit, if I want to edit that button, it brings me to this edit page and I see my form. However, if I go back to this one here and I click on here, it's still the same edit page, nothing different. So right now, this is hard coded to go to any page, all of them go to the edit page. There isn't really an identifier that takes me to the page for this particular item or for this particular item, right? I want to be able to end up in a place where I can only access the information that is inside this task, okay? Now to do that, you have to, like I said, you have to target that identifier, and that identifier is usually the ID. You could do reference and things like that, but we're gonna do it through ID. Now with the ID, the way that you can do this is by adding the ID as a parameter of the URL, so that way each URL will be different. So if I end up here, it will be edit/4 or edit/3, edit/ whatever ID it is. All right, so how we're going to do this is, first of all, we're going to go to the task right here, and we're going to make use of our params, right? So we're gonna bring in give me a second here to get my stuff from my lesson plan. Make sure that I gave you the. All right. Oh, actually, no, we're not gonna bring the params in here. What we're going to do here is, we're going to define the params first. So how we're going to define the params? If you can just do this, for example, that's just gonna take you to another edit/ID. This is not a param, okay? So you have to. The param is going to be the actual task ID, this right here, right? But you can't just go here and put that there. That's still not gonna work because it's a string. It's still a string. You have to turn this into an expression like that, and this is the way the expressions work in React and JSX. But because everything is still inside strings, it's still gonna consider the entire thing a string anyway. So we're going to get rid of that and get rid of that, and we're gonna turn the entire thing the string literal, which is the backtick, and then we're gonna go one step out, and we're gonna actually add the curly brackets to make the entire thing an expression. So it's basically going to come over here. Now this is what you do when you want to mix strings, strings and expressions together. You make a literal, okay, it's called string literal. You make a literal, you mix it all in together, make sure your expression has the $ in front of it. Make sure you don't have any spaces like that. Make sure you don't have any spaces here that everything should be exactly like that. And then that you're encapsulating everything inside of an expression, so it considers the entire thing an expression to be read. So now I can go ahead and save that, and it will automatically create a path that is going to link to according to the ID. So if I click on here right now, for example, it's going to send me to edit/4. If I go back, edit/3. So you see now I am now attaching the ID to the URL. Okay, now in order to create this an actual path that is going to read the parameter, I have to now go to where my path is being defined, and I have to create the parameter that I want in there. So it's going to be the ID parameter, and I'm going to hit save on that, and boom, there you go. So now I am able to use this edit page as a what's the word I'm looking for? Basically share it. I'm sharing it across all of the UIs, all of the tasks. All of the tasks are going to be using the exact same page, but they're basically just adding that little ID at the end of it to identify it differently, and it will be like one page used by everybody. Okay, all right, cool. So we did this, right, and everything is working so far. So now we're gonna go work in the edit task page, so which is this page right here. So what we want to do here is, first of all, so we want to be able to access this parameter right here. Okay, so we're gonna make a use of a use param, which is going to be right here, use param. Yep, use params, right, from React router. We have access to the React router because we installed it earlier. So we're gonna go ahead and save that, and then in here we're gonna open up some space, and we're going to bring in a variable basically, and we're gonna call that params, and we're gonna make that equals use params as a function. All right, cool. So we're basically grabbing whatever's inside this hook right here, this use params, and we're going to be attaching it to this variable right here, params. What this basically does is going to read through your URL, find the params, and save it into this, right? It's going to figure out which params it is. Now to make sure that this is working, I'm going to console log this, and I'm going to console log that params. Okay. All right. So if I do a little refreshy, I inspect it, and I go to my console. Here it is. My params is the ID 3, which is exactly right. That's my params. So now I have an identifier for that page. So let's actually let's go back. Where is it? Here. Let's go back here. Let's keep that here, and let's go back. I don't know if that's wired to go back yet. No, it's not. So let's go back and let's hit that one. Should be 1. There you go, ID 1. So it works. It changes the params all the time. ID 1, ID 1. So now that we have the params, now we know that we are in the right place to identify what's going on, right? All right, so let's go ahead and close that, and let's keep moving on. So yep, so that's there, but we don't need this console log anymore, so we can just get rid of that. All right, so the first thing that we need to do here is we need to be able to bring in your state, okay? Because we're going to be using the states eventually. All right, so give me 1 second. Okay, we know this because we have it somewhere else. Task, maybe in the app.js. Nope. Task in the home, right? Yeah, we have it right here. So we're gonna bring in the tasks right here from the use state and put it in here. We already are implementing the use state, importing the use state and the use effect, so that's good. We're gonna eventually need that. We're gonna put that there, but then we also are going to bring the task itself. We're gonna create another state for the actual task. And this will make sense a little bit later. Remember, we're dealing with all of the tasks to begin with, but then we're also dealing with a particular task in here. Okay. Alright, so now the next thing that we're going to do is, since we already have the params, let's go ahead and put the params down here just so we have the state at the very top. I always like to put my states at the very top of my application, except for when we have an actual an API or something like that. So I'm actually going to do that because the API is going to be used when I read, you know, when I read or post. When I do my get request on my post, I'm going to be using it. So what is it? I think a home page also has that. Yeah, right here. So I'm going to bring that and I'm going to put that in there because I am going to need it. Alright, close that. Alright, so we're good now so far. And alright, so if we look at what we are using here, we're using our text to be able to get the text that is in here, and then the unchanged is going to be using the set text. So we are using these variables right here. However, we are initializing them as empty values so that we're able to type them in. That's something that you would do in the add screens. In the edit screens, you want it to be a little bit different. You want it to actually be reading what's being imported here from this ID, right? So like for example, the text here, the title should bring whatever value is in that ID, in that text ID. Okay. So what we're going to do, and we're going to do that with a use effect, but before we do that, we want to make sure that this right here is assigned to the task text, and this is why we need to have this state available to us, because we need to make sure that we initialize this for the task text, and then this is going to be the task day, and then the reminder is going to be the task reminder. Alright, so we're tracking. That is not right. Task. I probably need coffee. Alright, cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to now actually fetch the task, right? So let's make a variable here and let's call it let's call it const fetch task. Sure. And this is going to be an asynchronous call. This is going to be an asynchronous call, and that's good. Well, I keep hitting enter. Right, cool. And in that asynchronous call, we're going to create a response. We're going to create a response, and we're going to await for it. Okay, and that's going to create my fetch. Alright, so now the fetch is going to come from the API, obviously, right? And my tasks for the MPI endpoint, but it's going to use the params ID, the params that we are grabbing here, right? So let me go to where I'm making something similar so I don't have to write it all up. This is just as good as any. Let's grab this right here and let's put that in there. Alright, cool. So now this is going to be reading the API right here. Tasks is fine. And this is going to read the ID, but the ID is unknown. The ID by itself is unknown. What is known is the params ID. So we know params because we're bringing it in right here, and we also know that the params ID is basically, let me see if I still have, we know the params is all of this, but we know that the params that ID is only this. It's only the value, okay? Cool. Alright, so we got that. And okay, so and then what are we going to do with this? Basically, well, we're gonna get it, right? We're gonna create a method for it because we're doing something with it. So that's going to be method get. Ooh, that's not right. Method get. All right, and we're gonna create a variable. Let's call it data, and we're going to await whatever response comes from that response I created, and in JSON format, and then we are going to return it. Cool. All right, so this shouldn't be anything new, right? We did this already in the home page right here, where we did the request. I think it's fetch task, yeah, right here. So this is very similar to what we just did here. Okay, so this is what I mean, like all of these stuff is kind of like repetitive, you know. It's once you do one, you kind of copy and paste on the next screen and just change the properties a little bit. And the only thing that this is doing different, what we're doing today, is that this uses params instead of, you know, just calling the entire API or something like that. So this is the only difference, okay? But everything else is pretty much the same, okay? All right, so now that we have the fetch, we have the fetch task. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna actually create the use effect request, okay? So we're gonna make the use effect, and that's going to add a function, a function. And okay, now inside the function we're going to an asynchronous call, of course. All right, and then inside the get task, we're going to create a variable, and we're going to call this const task task from server. Task from server. Okay, so what we're doing here, so we're basically trying to pull that one task so that we can grab all these properties and put them in here. Okay, and then we're going to await it, and we're going to now call the fetch task method that we created above. Okay, and then down here we're going to create our callback for the function. All right, and a placeholder for the dependencies just in case we need them, and we're gonna go ahead and save that. All right, so that's fine. So let's go ahead and do let's not do the update yet. Let's just make sure first that we are actually getting this information. Okay, so let's just do a console log, maybe here. Yeah, maybe here, and let's console log this task from server and see if we're getting it. So I'm just gonna task from server, comma, and then put that in there. All right, and inspected, go to the console. Okay, cool, there you go, task from server. We're able to get, this is the number one task, right? The first one that I created, that I clicked on the top. We're able to get the text, the day, the reminder. We're getting everything fine. So this is working so far. All right, good deal. All right, let's close that, just take it away. All right, so now the one thing that we need to do is we need to start attaching the stuff in here, right? Remember when we did this right here with this, the declarations of state? So now we have to update the state as soon as we get this call, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to use these methods, this set methods, not these right here, in order to create what we want to do. So first thing that we want to do is before we do anything at all, we want to be able to set the task itself, the entire task, right? So it's this one. So we're gonna grab that set task, and let's just call these setters, just so we know where we are. All right, so we're gonna get set task, and then we're going to set the task to the task from server, so that we're able to allow that to work. And now we're going to bring the set task, and the set day and the set reminder. What the heck happened? I don't think I copied it. Yep, there you go. Cool. All right, and what are we gonna set these to? We're gonna bring back whatever we just set, the task from server, and we're gonna attach that one to the text state, and then we're basically going to do the same thing here, but we're gonna change that one to day because that's that one here, and then the reminder to the reminder. Cool. So now that we do this and we hit enter, boom, there you go. We have now that what we did basically was we made sure that this variable here equals to whatever we are fetching from the server at that particular property, and we did the same thing for day, and we did the same thing for reminder, so we are able to get back our stuff. So if we go back now and we click on meeting on school right here and we edit, we get a meeting on school. We go back and we get this one, throw away garbage. Set reminders, they're all working. Let's say this one should be set reminders false. There we go. Okay, now if we do this and try to save the task, nothing is really gonna happen, you know, nothing happened. So we're not yet, see, nothing really happened. The reason why is because we're not updating the task yet. All we're doing is doing a get request. Okay, this was all nothing. This was all nothing. This was all just so we can actually create a get request. All right, so let's get rid of some of the spacing here. We don't need these tasks from server anymore. Actually, yes we do. Let's make it, you know, let's just comment it. Let's just comment it out. Alright, cool. So now that we have that, the next thing we need to do now is update the actual request. So let's just do an update request in here. Yep. So so just very similar to every request we've done before, we gotta create a function for it. Create update task. Sure. Update task. Alright, so create update task, and that's going to be an asynchronous call. We know this. Go ahead and open the function, put it in there, and alright, so now this update task is going to run off this button right here. So what I would like to do is I would like, not the caps, regular one. I'm gonna create an event variable here so that this say task doesn't arbitrarily do anything when I hit tab or enter or something like that. So I'm going to, and I think you've seen me do this before, prevent, I think I did it with the go back up there, with the go back button. Prevent default, yeah, prevent default. Alright, so that's basically just something that you should always do, you know, take away all the default functionality from every button that you add, and you know, and then just kind of just do your own functionality based on event, on click, on huff, on click, on double click, something like that. Alright, so now we're gonna make our await call, and then our await call is going to fetch the task by task ID, okay, because that's what we designed it earlier. And then now we're going to create another variable. We're gonna call this one updated task. Yep, updated task. Now what we're going to put in the updated task. Alright, so we need to have two parameters on here, two arguments. First is the task itself, and then what you are changing within that task. So if you just put the task itself, it's just going to bring the JSON, the array or whatever, the JSON object. Okay, what you want are the properties inside the object. So in order to do that, you have to do the spread operator, so you can spread the task into the properties only, not the object itself. And then the next argument is going to be the properties themselves that you want to that you want to change. You want to change reminder to the value of reminder, and yeah, comma, and then the same thing for the other ones, text to text, and day to day. All right, so so this, for example, let's say you wanted to do an update. You remember when we did the bell? So when you hit the bell, and it basically it updated that when you click it, it did the opposite, right? It did false to true, true to false type of deal. So this is why we said it. We do it this way, because in some cases you may be working with booleans. You will be doing this to make sure that you're basically an update will be doing the opposite of, you know, because it's a boolean. But in cases like you don't want it to be updated naturally, you want it to actually save whatever you're sending, whatever value you are declaring, then you just set it to itself. And this will make a little more sense later. That was a little hard to explain actually. All right, so right, so we're going to do then and await fetch, because you know we're gonna do the actual request now. And just like the one that we did up here, just gonna grab this. Do I have my, where is it? All right, cool. I don't have that, so I'm gonna grab all of this right here, including the backticks, and I'm gonna put them in here. But this time it's going to be the task ID, okay? Not the params. That was up there so we can catch the information that is coming in from the param. This is not catching the param. This is catching the task ID that I already got from the param. All right, and then in here, we're going to now declare our method. I always do that. There you go, a method. And remember, this is going to be an update, so it's going to be a put request. And we're gonna, because it's a put request, every time you use a put request or post request, you have to have headers and body. So our headers, and headers is going to be our content, content type, application slash JSON. All right, and then here we're going to do our body, and our body is going to be a JSON object that we are going to stringify. And what are we going to pass in there is going to be the updated task. So we're declaring, we're spreading the operator, we're changing the values in it, and then we're going to go ahead and send it to this API endpoint as a put method so that it can update, okay? Now the last thing that we need to do is we actually need to create this setter. So this is where we make call to the set tasks, because you have to set the entire thing now. And you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna do a quick map through your tasks, and that's going to take an arrow function. Now in this arrow function, we are going to create just an object there, task, and then just bring that down here. Yep, and then in here, then we're going to grab that object we created. Yep, task ID. So basically we're saying that if the task ID equals to the params ID, right? This is how we make that distinction to make sure that we change the actual one that we're working on. If the task ID, noise, yes, if the task ID equals to the params ID, then do this. If not, set the task to itself. Just leave it alone. Put the task back, basically. So what is this? What is this thing that we're going to do if it does match? So if it does match, just like we did here, right? We changed the one task. Here we're basically going to change all of the tasks. Now remember, we're not modifying the actual state. We're redeclaring it and putting it back. We're reconstructing it. Basically, we brought it back, and if nothing is changing, we're going to put it right back the way it was. But if something does change, then we're going to have to deconstruct the task in it, and then change it with the updated task. Updated task, update task. Updated task, yeah, or the updated task. That's what I called it, right? Yeah, updated task. All right. Yep, doesn't seem to have any errors, so looks like it's fine. So, just to make sure that this is correct, what I'm going to do is I am going to console log the updated task. So just like I am doing here, I'm gonna grab that. I'm actually gonna uncomment this because I want to compare the one that came from server and the one that I'm changing it to, so that way I can see that there is a change, right? And I'm gonna come down here to here and updated task, and I'm going to put the updated task in there. All right, cool. Hit save. Now none of this is going to work yet. Oh, what did I do? Headers, put, what's going on here? Oh, I put this entire thing into a string. Okay. There you go. All right, so let me see what happened. Okay, so I have my task from server coming in here, which is the ID 3. Now this save task right here, when I hit it, it's going to give me the updated task, and then I can compare them. But that's not gonna work just yet, because, close that, I don't have my actual updated task request attached, my update, not my updated task, my updated data. What's it called? What did I call it? Finish task, use effect. Okay, so this get task. Okay, this is my get task. That's fine. Just close this now. So it's out of the updated task, updated task, update task. Okay, I'm confusing it with the updated task. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my form here, right? And then in my form, I'm gonna declare my unsubmit, my unsubmit event. So basically, I'm gonna say here that unsubmit, call my update task. Yep. All right, cool. And just to make sure that my button is a submit button, it is. All right, cool. So now I can hit save again. Everything works. There's no refresh or anything. I'm gonna inspect this again. But in my console, the task from server is empty because it has to bring, I have to recall it. I have to call it unload basically. So it wasn't mounted yet. That's the deal. All right, so now I'm gonna go ahead and change the food shopping to clothes shopping, or supplies shopping, and that's fine. And I'm gonna save the task. And now if you see here, voila, we have the ID is the same because it's fine, nothing changed there, but we did change the food shopping to supplies shopping. Everything else is exactly the same way, nothing else changed. So now if I go back to my homepage, which I haven't wired this up yet, but I'll just go ahead and grab this and delete it and re-enter. Now look, supplies shopping, it worked. Yay! So now if I just click on that again, you can see that it persists. So there you go, we did it. So that is basically how you do an edit task, and basically any type of CMS basically will work the same way. The only thing that we don't have working correctly is that add button right there, which right now I have it as a page title and all that. So let's work on that real quick. Let's open up this page title and see what we're doing here. So basically I am bringing in the title, that's fine. And then I have a button here that is going to work as a button, otherwise shows nothing. what should we do here? Let's actually add the link. Let's turn it into a link instead. Let's turn it into a link, and then let's call here link, and then let's add a property here, another property, and then that's going to be, just name it 2, and then we're gonna pass it so that it is available, and hit save. And yeah, nothing. The prop 2 is marked as required in link. It's marked as required in link. Okay. All right, let's see what implications we have now. So we are at home, and that's basically just working not as, okay. So, okay, so I see here that it's looking for a path. All right, so we're gonna make that a prop as well, and we're gonna call it path, and we're gonna pass it as well here. And we're gonna close that. Okay, still path is undefined. I'm just trying to see, you know what, let's just do something else instead. Let's just revert all of this, yes, to right there. Okay, let's add another property just like this. There you go. And then we're gonna say link, right? We're gonna call a property called link, and then we're gonna put it up here. And then this one is going to use a link, and a link. So now we're basically saying if the link is declared, if it exists, put a link, and if it doesn't, then leave it alone. Don't put nothing. Okay. We're gonna leave the class name because we want it to look like a button, and we're not gonna need the click event. We are going to need a link text. We're going to need a link text, so we're gonna add that here. And just so I know that I'm gonna need it, we're gonna need a 2, and we're gonna need a path. So we just might as well add it. And now we're just gonna add them here as well. That's gonna be 2, and that's gonna be path. Alright, so we're basically doing something like this. Path, component, no, but that's not it. That's not what I'm looking for. Home, let's look at the home. We're doing this. We're doing this too. Okay, so we don't need the path. The path is the 2, sorry. The path is the 2. What was I thinking? So we don't need the path. I got confused with something else. Okay, there we go. Alright, so now we have that. Now we can come to, we can come to the edit, yes, to the edit task, and we don't have a button text, so let me just go to click here. Alright, so we don't have a button text. What we do have is a link text. Alright, so we're not declaring a link, so what we want is link text. So if the link text exists, then it's a link. Link. Perfect. Yep, perfect. And now what we want to do now is, in the link test is gonna say go back, and the 2 is going to be the home page, which is already wired up to. So if I see that, look at the bottom right here where my mouse is. See this? It's linking to localhost 3000. So if I if I click on this, it takes me back to where I need to be. Okay, cool. So that's working, and we made this page title a little bit more a little bit better, so we can still use it here, and it didn't throw that error that you saw before. So right here is working as a button, but in here is working, although it looks like a button, it's working as a link. And it goes back. All right, this has been a very long one and a very a lot of information. So take as much time as you need to pause and go back through the screens and soak it all up, and and basically just learn this, because this is a very important part of any job for any front-end developer, to be able to interact with the API with params and things like that. All right guys, I'll catch you on the next one.